Rockets Bucks. Again, a game that the Bucks controlled for the most part up until about the final 5 minutes. And it happens super fast. Giannis gets a putback. They're up by 8. And then all of a sudden, Amen Thompson gets an and one on a broken play where Kevin Durant's driving on an ISO. Ryan Rollins steps over to take a charge. Ryan Rollins was guarding Amen Thompson. So once Ryan Rollins ends up on the ground, Amen Thompson is effectively unguarded under the basket. He gets a putback and one. They go to the other end, and the Bucks run a really poorly executed two-man action. We talked about this a lot in the Knicks-Pacers series last year, but the concept of floor balance. When you're trying to keep the floor balance for your transition defense, you typically want to have at least one, if not two players above the break that are not crashing, whose job it is to get back in transition defense in case you miss or you turn the basketball over. And they ran a little dribble handoff, Giannis and Gary Trent at the top of the key. But while they ran that action, Giannis is rolling. Gary Trent's curling off of the DHO, so both guys are going downhill towards the basket, and they had both corners in the dunker spot occupied. So when Reed Shepherd makes a really nice back pressure play, getting over the top and blocking Gary Trent on his little shot, all 5 Bucks players are south of the foul line, which led to a very quick run out for Jabari Smith. So we get bang and one from Amen Thompson, little poor floor balance from the Bucks. All of a sudden, Jabari Smith's running out the other way for a foul, and that 8-point game is a 3-point game just like that. Next possession, Giannis forces a bad shot through a triple team along the left lane line, falls to the ground. When he's on the ground, that sparks a 5-on-4 for the Rockets. On the other end, Sengun beats Giannis down the floor and gets a dunk. Now it's a 1-point game. In less than 2 minutes of game clock, an 8-point game turned into a 1-point game. And then in the close game late, Kevin Durant just out-executed Giannis in the half court as Houston ended up getting the win. Giannis has been excellent all season, and he was excellent most of this game last night. But he made, or I should say yesterday in the afternoon, but he made several critical errors late, including 3 missed free throws, a pretty bad turnover where he misread Amen Thompson and help. We'll talk about that play later. He also offensive goaltended a Gary Trent Jr. jump shot that I think might have gone in even if he didn't touch it. So a couple of just uncharacteristic mistakes for Giannis down the stretch. And then on the other end, Kevin Durant just killed him. The Bucks tried all sorts of configurations to try to slow down KD and the KD Sengun two-man game, which has predictably become a staple for the Rockets down the stretch. And none of it worked. They tried Gary Trent Jr. on KD one-on-one. He easily got an and one against him, a little short jumper along the left elbow, left on an island. Gary Trent got too far up underneath him. He got scrappy. KD just shot right over the top of him, got an and one. They tried Giannis on him. So they moved Giannis over to KD. KD's attacking from the left elbow, same spot he was going against Gary Trent. Giannis is pressing up on him. And Houston was in this really weird spacing setup where they had Alperen Sengun on the opposite dunker spot and Amen Thompson just a couple feet away from him up the right lane line. So they had 2 Rockets kind of sitting right there in the lane. Gary Trent was guarding Jabari Smith, who was off on the right wing, opposite side. And for whatever reason, even though Ryan Rollins was already there, Miles Turner was already there, they were both in the paint because Sengun and Thompson were in the paint. Gary Trent sinks way in nail help, and Kevin Durant just throws an easy swing pass to Jabari Smith on the right wing, who nails a 3. Another nice little bit of shot creation from KD, but kind of a foolish set of help side defense there from the Bucks. They tried switching. They put Giannis on KD and Miles Turner on Sengun. They ran the high ball screen. They tried switching. And guess what? Miles on Kevin Durant. KD just promptly cooked him for a short little pull-up jumper, mimicking something he had done to Miles a couple times throughout the game. They tried, okay, so we put Miles on KD. That doesn't work. So we're going to have to do some sort of traditional coverage. Well, we'd prefer to have Giannis in help. So they move Giannis off the ball. They put Kyle Kuzma on Kevin Durant. And then instead of switching with Miles Turner, they just come up to the level. So Kuzma chases over the top. Up comes Miles Turner up to the level to get the ball out of KD's hands. What is the next progression there? Little pocket pass to Sengun in the short roll. Sengun gets deep on the short roll catch against Giannis and just patiently waits for a little angle and finishes a little left shoulder hook over the top. And then to close the game, Giannis tries ball pressuring KD. Giannis tries ball pressuring Alperen Sengun. Sengun ends up beating him with a little spin move or a little right-handed drive into his spin move and gets an and one that ends up icing the game. So, on the one hand, there's a little bit of like a thing that we saw with Milwaukee that I think is a harsh reality for them down the stretch of this game. So, for instance, everything that Milwaukee tried to create offensively down the stretch of this game in the half court was on the shoulders of Giannis against a very difficult Houston defense to try to score against. And then on the other end of the floor, I've been complimentary the Bucks and how the improvement from Brook to Miles Turner and the improvement from Dame to Ryan Rollins and the improvement from Taurean Prince to AJ Green in that starting lineup as athletes makes them better as a defense in the larger sample. But ultimately, against Houston, they had 3 dudes on the court that couldn't guard KD, and that put them into some coverage binds. And so there's some stuff with Milwaukee there that we'll get into in a little bit, but a really nice win for Houston to come back from behind on the road against a tough to beat Milwaukee team, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat late. I want a couple key call outs for Houston. Excellent defense late in the game. The Bucks ran a bunch of that classic kind of Giannis plus a shooter 2-man game at the top of the key. They ran it some with Gary Trent. They ran it some with AJ Green, and Sengun did a great job not letting himself get screened so he can stay with Giannis. The guards did a good job staying attached to the shooters. They did not give up any easy shots on those sequences down the stretch. And then on Giannis's bully ball attacks, they swarmed him well and they rotated well. Amen Thompson had this amazing late game steal on Giannis with about a minute left, where Giannis draws 2 to the ball. So Giannis is driving. I think he gets Kevin Durant on a switch. He gets a little screen with Kuzma because Sengun was originally guarding Giannis. They switch it, right? So Kuzma runs through to the right corner trying to pull Sengun out of the play. Giannis drives on KD and gets way deep down to the left block. On that sequence, Sengun leaves Kuzma and goes and basically double teams Giannis, right? So Kyle Kuzma's wide open in the right corner. But Amen Thompson, who's guarding Ryan Rollins on the right wing, Ryan Rollins goes and relocates to the opposite wing, and Amen Thompson makes a really smart read. He sees Ryan Rollins going, but he knows that that's behind Giannis. Like Giannis has his back turned to where Ryan Rollins is, and Kuzma's man is the man double teaming. So Amen Thompson just goes, he's probably going to try to throw it to Kuzma, not to Rollins. And so he peels off and switches to Kuzma in perfect timing with when Giannis throws the pass, and Amen Thompson is right there in the passing lane to get the steal. Just a huge defensive play from Amen Thompson. A lot of those kinds of, again, staying glued to Giannis in the 2-man game with the guards, not losing the shooters, not giving up any easy shots in those sequences, and then swarming Giannis late for a bad miss on a triple team along the left lane line, and then forcing the turnover on the kick out on that play with a minute left. Really, really nice defense. They use that defense to get to transition as well. Again, we talked about the Jabari Smith foul. We talked about the Sengun dunk. Just really impressive defense down the stretch from Houston. And then lastly, once again down the stretch, and we've talked about this a lot this season, the Rockets just have really reliable offensive options, and many of them. And a lot more than they did in the past, to say the least. Like KD was a real matchup problem for the Bucks down the stretch. Their guards were too small for him, and their center was too slow for them. And so as a result, there were basically only 2 guys on the floor who had any shot to make Kevin Durant work hard, Giannis and Kyle Kuzma. And that put the Bucks into a coverage bind. They couldn't switch without giving up a bad matchup, either against a guard or against Miles Turner. And when they put 2 on the ball, that allowed Sengun to work in the short roll, where he's absolutely deadly. And as I mentioned, that's a little bit revealing on the Bucks front, like we talked about earlier with some of their personnel. But that's the difference. On one end of the floor, Giannis has to do everything offensively against an elite defense, while on the other end of the floor, Houston's got options. And that's one of the bits that's been really apparent to me early in the season watching Houston. For whatever you want to say about their shooting, for whatever you want to say about their collective lack of offensive polish, they just have 3 legitimately awesome offensive players, 2 of which are playing at or near the superstar level, which is giving them just a lot of options to break the defense down at the beginning of possessions. It just seeing the juxtaposition of those two situations between Kevin Durant and Sengun versus just Giannis. It was just fascinating to see. And, honestly, like I really like this Bucks team. I like watching them. I think they're a fun watch. I was higher on them than most coming into the season, even though I was probably still too low on them. Like they're even better than I thought they would be. But unfortunately, this is likely how their story ends this year. They just ultimately have some personnel limitations when they run into the best teams in the NBA. But another really nice win for the Rockets, who have now won 6 out of 7. 20 more offensive rebounds yesterday. The only team in the NBA right now to average over 20 second chance points per game. They're up to 8th in defense to start the year. That's been ticking up over the last few games. Still first in offense after 9 games. 3rd in net rating and up to 5th in the Western Conference standings. And obviously a lot of negativity surrounding Milwaukee in this particular segment. So one little bit of Bucks positivity to cleanse the bad game from your memory. I still thought Ryan Rollins was amazing again yesterday. When the wheels were coming off late in the game, he was the one bright spot that kept them in the game. He had a huge 3 against a soft closeout off the left wing. He toasted Amen Thompson for a layup off the dribble, one-on-one on the left wing, a really impressive athletic play. He had a huge offensive rebound late that got Giannis to the foul line. He's just a really good player. And he's a big part of what has made the Bucks better this year than what they've looked like on paper.